Blazers have now lost 6 in a row. But at least it was an exciting day in the NBA trade world. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it part of your daily routine. Make your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, talking about the Blazers' loss to the Suns, a 131-25 loss at home to Phoenix. 6 in a row now for the Blazers as they are scuffling a truly, truly rough patch this season. We will see how they respond as they head past the trade deadline and towards the All-Star break over the next couple weeks, or like next week, I should say. Plus, huge day for NBA trades. It was not deadline day, but for whatever reason, the NBA decided to do a bunch of business today. This was a day for everyone to do a bunch of business. We'll talk about what went down, and I think two particularly notable moves I want to highlight, as well as in light of one of those moves, Jaren Jackson Jr. moving to the Utah Jazz. Some lessons to be learned from a good young team about hitting the gas and bailing out, and the two sides of that coin. Let's do what we do, though. Fastest recap of the West. Blazers lose 131-25. No Denny Avdija in this game. He was listed as doubtful, and him, along with him and Scoot Henderson. And then at about 1 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon, the Blazers updated and said, no Denny and no Scoot. If you listen to yesterday's bonus episode, that was the guesses I had hazarded, just basically on the way Denny talked about his injury and the way Blazers have handled return from long-term injuries for Scoot. I expect Scoot will play this weekend in one of the two games against Memphis on Friday or Saturday. We'll see how they handle that, but I expect Scoot is going to be back this weekend. Denny, we shall see. So no Denny, no Scoot. On the other side, still no Devin Booker. He's missing his 6th straight game, but no Jalen Green, who was questionable coming into this game for the Suns. They're a little bit shorthanded as well, and the Blazers come out and just blitz them. Absolutely blitz them. Donovan Clingan hits his first 3 shots. All of them are from 3. He also blocks 2 shots in the opening 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes, even like 2:54. The Blazers are hooping, and Clingan, who had such a brutal night in the Blazers' last game and just got absolutely just handled by Jared Allen. A really, really, really rough night for Clingan, where he couldn't stop anyone and also couldn't score. He's got this thing humming. He's hitting 3-pointers. He's blocking shots. The Blazers race out to a 34-15 lead over the first 8 minutes of the game. They lead 41-30 after the end of the first quarter, a 41-point burst. Like the Suns obviously closed the gap a little bit after that 19-point lead 8 minutes into the game, but Blazers made 7 of their first 11 3-pointers. You're going to be in good shape if you do that, right? Like, this is the worst 3-point shooting team in the league, and they're just acing threes to begin the game. Tumani Kamara, 13 in the first quarter to lead the way for the Blazers. DC finished with 11 in that first quarter. Jeremy Grant had 10. Those dudes are just, they're rolling, and those dudes are hot. Jeremy Grant back in the starting lineup tonight, along with Drew Holiday, who returned in this game. Holiday missed one game for personal reasons, as again noted on the bonus episode. You got to become an everydayer so you can have this information. Giago Splitter had hazarded a guess that he thought the Drew Holiday thing was just a 1 day. He's going to miss 1 game for personal reasons. It was not the personal reasons for trade scheming, it appears, although this doesn't stop people from putting on their tinfoil hat this time of year. Do what you do. But Blazers head to the second quarter up 11. Suns come back. They do not take the lead, but they keep it close. Blazers cool off a little bit from 3. Still hit 5 threes, but 5 of 15 in the quarter. But the reason that they hung in the reason they kept their lead is because they crushed the offensive glass. 8 offensive rebounds, turning missed long shots into rebounds and second opportunities. In fact, Krejci made his Blazers debut in this game. His first bucket as a Trailblazer was an offensive rebound kick out to him for 3. Veet, not particularly impressive, 2 of 7, 1 of 6 from 3 in his 13 and a half minutes in this game. Blazers going to halftime up 5, 72-67. Neither team can stop anybody. The Blazers are shooting over 40% from 3 thanks to that incredibly hot shooting first quarter, and the Suns are going to come back, and they're going to take the lead in the third quarter. Grayson Allen hits a 3 with about 8 minutes to go in the third. The Suns' first lead since it was 4-3 in the opening minute of the game. They've erased that 19-point lead. You are now going to play 20 minutes of basketball to determine who wins a 1-point game, and the Suns really, really just took care of it in the third quarter, capped by a Jordan Goodwin 3 at the buzzer. Suns go into the third quarter up 7, 101-94, and the Blazers just didn't have it in the fourth. They just didn't have it. It wasn't like they just they didn't get blown out or anything, right? It wasn't over for them, and the Blazers ended up like overall shooting pretty well. They just couldn't stop the Suns at any point. More on that in a moment. And Phoenix led by as many as 12 and hung around in that range, 7, 9, 12 in that range for the most of the quarter. But the Blazers kind of made it close in the final 90 seconds. Jeremy Grant hits a 3, and they need a stop. Clock ticking under a minute clock ticking under 90 seconds when the Suns get it back. They run a little bit of clock. Grayson Allen hunts Shaedon Sharpe on a switch with a high pick and roll, but he doesn't drive him. Instead, he takes a pretty hard step back from the top of the key. Splash. 7-point game with just under a minute to go, 55 seconds left, and the Suns are up 7. Blazers needed to stop there, didn't get one, and then they immediately turn it over. Drew Holiday turns the ball over just like, trying to get it up the floor too quickly and make a pass, from back towards the middle of the court. Quick turnover, Suns, up 7, clock ticking under a minute. The Blazers choose not to foul. The Suns run clock, and then Shaedon Sharpe eventually does commit a foul with 5 seconds left in the shot clock. A poor decision, to say the least. And then, at that point, you just don't want to foul. I don't think Shaedon did it on purpose, but it happens. And then, but Blazers had a foul give, so the Suns get it back with 14 on the clock, get to reset, and Colin Gillespie, who was awesome in this game, finds Mark Williams for a dunk, and the Suns go up 9, 129-120 with 25 seconds left, and Tiago Splitter hilariously takes a timeout with his team down 9 and 25 seconds left, and they sort of made it close. Jeremy Grant banks in a 3, Royce O'Neal misses 2 free throws. Sidy Cissoko turbos down the court and gets a dunk. You have to shoot a 3 there. No timeouts, down 6, under 20 seconds left, and under 15 seconds left at that point. You have to shoot a 3. City instead dunks, and the Blazers, it cuts the lead to 4. Shaedon Sharpe, great defense on the inbounds play, forces a turnover. Ball bounces off Grayson Allen, and the Blazers get it back. 7 seconds left, down 4. Again, you have to shoot a 3 if you're Sidy Cissoko. You just have to shoot a 3. That 2-pointer is worthless. There's no timeouts left. You have no timeouts left, and the clock's ticking under 15 seconds. You just have to take a pull-up 3. That dunk is just, I don't know, it's for making you lose by less. And so Blazers get it back, down 4, 6.9 seconds left. Jeremy Grant misses a 3-pointer. That's that. Blazers do a courtesy foul at the end of the game, and the Suns win 130-125. I don't know. There was the first half, even the first 8 minutes, the Blazers were humming, right? They were just cooking. Toumani Camara, 13 in the first quarter, 0 the rest of the way, none. Blazers scored a $125. Some of that is just pace. The game was, the Suns play really fast, and I think they did a good job of sort of getting the Blazers to play. The Blazers are not uncomfortable playing fast, but I thought the Blazers played too quick. They played hurried. There's a difference in playing fast and hurrying, and I thought that sounds like a Michael Holden quote right there. Shout out to Michael Holden. That was, I thought they played a hurried brand of basketball. They didn't play terribly. They just couldn't stop the Suns. They couldn't stop them, particularly Colin Gillespie, who was tremendous in this game. 30 points, 10 assists. Had 3 steals, just 1 turnover in 33 minutes. Grayson Allen had 24. Dylan Brooks, who was coming in averaging 28 a game over his last 5, just finished with 11. But it was Gillespie and Allen who really did the work. And Blazers got a bunch of balanced scoring. 23 from Jeremy to lead the way. Tumani had 13, but none after that. That first quarter, Don Kling had 14, 3 after the first quarter. Shaden Sharp finished with 19. Drew Holiday had 15. Blake Wesley 10 off the bench. Rob Williams 14 off the bench, and CD Sissoko had 12 off the bench. Scoreless night for Caleb Love and Vit Krejci, 5 in his Blazers debut. Real quick on Vit before we shift gears and talk trades and stuff. He'll be better than this. He just looked like someone, he was trying to figure it out, right? He's just playing, he's just trying to figure out where he fits in. He missed some makeable shots. He missed some jumpers he can definitely make. He looks like someone who was trying to figure out how not to make mistakes and then try to be aggressive in little moments as opposed to like where he fits. He'll be better than that game. Like, I mean, is that a very bold statement? He was 2 of 7 from the floor and 1 of 6 in his 13 and a half minutes. Yeah, I think he's going to be better than that. Not a notable debut by any means, but hit a little floater. His other bucket was in the early in the like 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Hit a little floater out of a timeout. A nice drive and made a bucket. That was his only 2-point attempt, and he hit it. Otherwise, he was missing threes. But yeah, I just think like, Colin Gillespie did such a good job, particularly with Oso Ighodaro and a little bit of Mark Williams, but particularly Oso, just throwing it to him and then running like what they call, and Thiago Splitter mentioned this in his post-game press conference, but like the get action. You throw the ball to the big, and then you go get it. It's like a kind of a full speed DHO. That's a dribble handoff. Excuse me, I'm getting jargony here. But like Blazers could not stop that dribble handoff action. They had no chance. They couldn't stay in front of Gillespie, and then they were getting caught in sort of because of Klingon wanting to play drop and stay around the paint. They were getting caught in those handoffs where it's like, oh no, Gillespie has a really clean look, and the Suns love to shoot pull-up threes. And then Klingon was getting drawn out a little bit and giving up buckets at the rim, and then he was trying to stay back and also hit a couple little push shots in the third quarter. And it's like, yeah, they didn't have an answer for it. Eventually, they went away from Klingon. I think that was the move after he really struggled with that. But it was too little, too late. Eventually, they went super small at the end of the game, but it's just they didn't have it. They couldn't. The defense just was not good enough to win this game. I don't think this was about the offense. They really struggled to shoot the ball in the second half. They 5 of 22 from 3 after a very good first half. Obviously, they made 7 of their first 11 threes and just 5 after halftime, but they hit 13 threes in the first half. You knew the offense was going to slow down a little bit, but the defense just like never gave them an opportunity. Okay, I went a little long here. I apologize to not you, dear listener, but please join me in the second segment. It's a whole day of trades, huge trades. Jazz made a big move. The Minnesota Timberwolves made a move that we should absolutely keep our eye on, and James Harden did indeed end up on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's talk about all that in the second segment. Join me there, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you that today's program is brought to you by the good folks over there at FanDuel. It's last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. So, whether you're rooting for our neighbors to the north, the Seattle Seahawks, or riding with the underdogs quarterbacked by Drake May, a former Tar Heel great, or you just want to build one last same-game parlay. This is the game everyone's been waiting for, where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and snaps feel bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season to make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. If you win, make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's program is also brought to you by your local YMCA, and certainly my local YMCA. That's the YMCA Columbia-Willamette, where they want you to find your play, because at the YMCA of Columbia-Willamette, they believe that everyone deserves to find their place to play, because play connects us, strengthens us, and brings us together as a community. They got 3 pillars: youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. The Y, through those pillars, is your local nonprofit helping people of all ages move, grow, and belong across the Portland and Vancouver metro area. If you're heading out to your local Y, you know what you're going to find? You're going to find 6 courts and a full fitness center at the Beaverton Family Y. You're going to find families swimming and playing pickleball at the Clark County and Sherwood YMCAs, family activities all year long, brand new workout equipment at all 3 branches, and so much more. And with YMCA camps, childcare, and enrichment sites throughout the region, the Y gives kids safe, fun spaces to learn, play, and build confidence all year long. Find your play at the Y. Visit ymcacw.org/pod. That's ymcacw.org/pod, or follow them on YouTube and Instagram at YMCACW. All right. Thanks for making this show your first listen. If you're living that everyday lifestyle, if you are really listening to the show every single day as your first listen, why not join the Everydayer Club? If you do so right now, you can get a month for free when you use the promo code DEADLINE if you sign up before February 5th. And what do you get when you sign up for it? Well, you get access to the members-only Discord where we're chit-chatting about the Blazers and all the big moves happening across the league. Plus, you get an ad-free version of this podcast that is Locked on Blazers without any interruptions. Go check it out. There's a link in the show notes. Locked on Blazers.supercast.com. Okay, let's talk about trades. There were a bunch of them, and they were fun. What a weird day in the NBA, right? There's no moves. As of Sunday, there have been 3 total trades in the NBA all season long. And then all of a sudden, freaking Jaren Jackson Jr. is getting traded. And the Wolves are positioning themselves to maybe be in the Giannis hunt. And James Harden is indeed doing what he does, which is getting traded at the deadline and heading to Cleveland. A deal that looked like it was pretty close the way it was reported yesterday, but indeed ended up being done today. James Harden heads to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. It's amazing that the Cavs were the team to give up the draft capital, but hey, it happens. I think I don't really get it for Cleveland, but I sort of get it because James Harden's really good. I think it's like the only way that the Clippers had any path to getting a young player, and they got a young player that, when he's healthy, is extremely good. It's just he's staying on the court has been a challenge for him. The big trade, though, as Jaren Jackson Jr. heads to the Utah Jazz in a 8-player deal. Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Jock Lawndale, Vince Williams Jr. Head to Utah, and in exchange, Utah sends Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, your boy Slow-Mo, Taylor Hendricks, George Niang, and 3 future firsts, 2 of them in 2027 and 1 in 2031. The Grizzlies are into a full rebuild. More on them to close the show. It's unbelievable that Ja is the last man standing from that team. Dylan Brooks gone, Desmond Bane gone, and now Jaren Jackson Jr. gone. The Jazz find themselves in a very weird spot. They are clearly hitting the gas. They've been such a team just hanging around with all these tradable first round picks and all these assets, but just never actually going for it. They finally went for it. And now clearly they're going to try to be good next season. And I think they might be pretty darn good in a hurry. This is a fun and interesting trade. They're just going to get really expensive. Jaren Jackson Jr. is handsomely paid. Lauri Markkanen handsomely paid. They got to pay Walker Kessler. Eventually, in a couple of years, they're going to have to pay Keontae George. They're going to go from this, whatever they're going to win, 21 games this season, 22 games this season. That might be a lot. That's 6 more wins. 20-ish games, 20 wins this season, and to being a team that might be, want to compete for the playoffs in 2026. That's a good one. I want to talk about what the Wolves did in a second, but so James Harden traded, that Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, which I think is really notable because the Grizzlies now full rebuild, right? They're tearing it down. They're starting over. They got 7 draft picks, 4 from the Desmond Bane deal, 1 that they already flipped and turned into Cedric Coward. To your Portland Trail Blazers, now 3 in this Jaren Jackson Jr. deal. They've got 12 picks in the next 7 drafts. They're going for it. They're going for it, and by that I mean being bad. And they got this massive trade exception that they produce that they're never going to use, but it is the largest in league history. some other deals that went down. The Bulls are making moves. The Bulls made moves all week. They landed Anthony Simons and they sent Nikola Vucevic to the Boston Celtics. Vooch is a center upgrade of sorts. He's certainly like a better than Luka Garza, and that's basically what they got. Simons, but they've sort of desperately been trying to trade, finally ends up in Chicago, where the Bulls have a lot of guards because the Bulls made another move. They took a flyer on Jaden Ivey, which I think is a really interesting trade. Albeit Ivy just does not look like a good basketball player right now. Maybe he'll get back physically to what he was, but he was, struggling a little bit with production just early in his career, and then like really bad broken leg, and then hurt himself with a knee injury coming back from that from the broken leg. Like he's just he doesn't have the burst that he once did. And when I watched the Pistons a lot this year, they're a fun team to watch. They always get in fights and they play really hard defense, and I like watching Cade Cunningham. But like Ivy just is a non-factor. He's a non-factor, and the reason that he doesn't play very much for them is because he's not very good. But he heads to the Chicago Bulls along with Michael Conley in a 3-team deal. And the Pistons, for their troubles, get Kevin Huerter, a shooter they desperately need because they just need more shooting. The Pistons could make the NBA Finals this year. When you're that good, you take your chances. They also take Dario Saric in for their troubles, and they completed a pick swap with the Minnesota Timberwolves, a pick swap for first-round picks this year. But really what the Wolves did was they got cash considerations and dumped Mike Conley on the Bulls and had to in order to do that, they had to swap picks with the Pistons. That is very interesting because what that does is it moves the Timberwolves under the first apron, which means they're allowed to take on more money than they send out in trades. They are positioning themselves very clearly, it appears, to be in the mix for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Blazers' dreams of Giannis are probably cooked. Mark Stein and Jake Fisher, who reported that the Blazers were at least trying to get into the mix, have since reported that Giannis is not interested. Not surprising. It was always a long shot. And the big deal is like if Giannis isn't going to sign a contract extension, it doesn't make sense for the Blazers to trade for him. He's not going to do that. That's it. And that's all, folks. So the Wolves and the Heat seem to be the two teams at the front of the Giannis sweepstakes. Giannis, of course, does not want to be traded and wants to he wants to relocate, but he does not want to be traded. He wants a new job for a new basketball team in the same league, but he does not want to be traded or leave Milwaukee. It's tough. But the Wolves, the real big old eyeballs looking at that trade. That's like that's a clear sign that they are positioning themselves to make a move. And I think the Blazers, they should at least, and I'm sure they are, on the phone with the Bucks before they push any Giannis deal potentially across the finish line to see if they can facilitate any trades and if it would benefit them too. It's unlikely that like the Blazers are going to swap all three of their picks back, but if they can, if this is a chance probably for the during the Giannis trade is a chance for the Milwaukee picks to be their most valuable, probably to the Bucks because they're going to make some other decisions about how they do things. If they have the ability to tank or not. I think the Blazers obviously need to figure out what exactly is going down to see if facilitating makes sense for them. But I think big old eyeballs on the Wolves. They seem to be positioning themselves to make a massive splash heading into the final 36 hours of the NBA trade deadline. As you were listening to this is Wednesday, February 4th's program, and the trade deadline wraps up noon on Thursday the 5th out here in Portland on the noon Pacific time. That's going to do it for that portion of the program. I want to get back to this Jaren Jackson Jr. trade because I think it presents a real lesson for the Blazers. There's a real lesson to be learned from the fact that Jaren Jackson Jr. just doesn't play for the Grizzlies anymore, and Desmond Bane doesn't play for the Grizzlies, and Dillon Brooks doesn't play for the Grizzlies anymore. It happened quick, because it always happens quick. Let's talk about that to close the show. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? First, though, let's talk about game time, because it's the NBA season, and there's nothing better than being in the arena with your buddies, in the crowd, with the folks you like, your family members, your kids, enjoying the big moments, enjoying the little ones. But getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been easy. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app Pick out an upcoming NBA game. Right there on your phone, you're going to see a map of the venue that you want to go to, and you can have tickets locked in minutes. It's super simple. The venue's going to pull up, and then you're going to have all-in upfront pricing. So what you see is what you get as you're browsing the app. It is super-duper simple. You can also visit gametime.co and browse it on a computer as well. It's quick, it's intuitive, stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. Today's program is also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how you might be running your business and think there's got to be a better way, and there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications, because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Quo is simple, and it's just going to make everything in your business comms even simpler. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees full conversation threads, so it makes replies faster and more personal. It's no surprise that Quo is the number one rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I am struck by Memphis's teardown for a couple reasons. Jaren Jackson Jr. was kind of rumored to maybe be available, and then the Jazz swooped in there and made it happen. They took a swing to get better. And this isn't really about the Jazz. I want to rewind back to the Grizzlies. In the 2022 playoffs, the Grizzlies, not the Blazers, the Grizzlies, entered the playoffs at 56-26. Top 5 offense, top 4 defense, 5th in offense, 4th in defense, that is. They were 2nd in the West. Ja Morant was in his 3rd season. Jaren Jackson Jr. was in his 4th. Desmond Bane was in his 2nd. Dylan Brooks was also a 4th-year player. This team was young, feisty. They had a core and an identity, and they were awesome. They were awesome. They were really stinking good. And like that year, they were reportedly. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. They weren't reportedly doing anything that year. That year, they win the first round of the playoffs. They lose to the Warriors in the second round. Ja Morant gets hurt in that series, but this is a team on the rise. They're incredibly young. They've still got players on rookie scale contracts. Jaren Jackson Jr. is about to step into a bigger deal. Ja Morant's about to sign a bigger deal. Bane is about to prove that he's worth the max, et cetera, et cetera. But that summer, they're 56-26. They are, as good as you can be. Top 5 in both offense and defense, 2nd in the West. This is a championship level team. And that summer, they don't do anything. They traded DeAnthony Melton for Danny Green. Cool. They let Kyle Anderson walk, who was a pretty useful part of their core, but okay, that's fine. Ja signs an extension, and they had a backup point guard in Tyus Jones. During that season, though, when they're going to finish 2nd in the West again in the 22-23 season, they reportedly had declined to pay a steep asking price for OG Anunoby. Toronto was going to tear it down. They're going to trade. They were going to trade OG. They were going to trade Pascal Siakam, which they eventually did both. And the Grizzlies were just reportedly, according to ESPN, not willing to pay the Toronto's extremely steep asking price. But they didn't. They didn't. At the time, it's like, hey, they were going to be patient. They go 51 and 31, but they end up losing in the opening round to the Los Angeles Lakers that year. Some injuries, some bad luck, back-to-back second-place finishes in the West, back-to-back 50-win seasons, but they didn't They didn't try to get better. They just said, we're good. We've got a long window. Let's go for it. They didn't take a big swing. In the summer of 2023, they decided to that was after that back-to-back second place finishes. They decided to let Dillon Brooks walk. They signed Desmond Bane to a max contract. They got 3 max guys. They ended up trading a couple first-round picks for Marcus Smart. That one didn't work out so well. Marcus Smart, who's just had some availability problems and kind of got old in a hurry, was no good for the Grizzlies and did not play very much. Just didn't play much basketball. And the Grizzlies, like that, after that summer when Dillon Brooks walks and they signed Bane to his contract extension, and they add Smart, like it unravels that winter. Ja Morant gets suspended. It's the beginning of the mess. They go 27-55. Last year, 24-25 season, they're kind of, after a true nightmare year, a true nightmare 12 months, they're pretty freaking good. They're 48-34. They were clearly good. Briefly atop the West. They finished 6th on offense and 10th on defense. A good basketball team. But there was turmoil there, right? They had to fire Taylor Jenkins 9 games before the playoffs. And they ended up finishing 8th in the West and getting swept out of the playoffs, and it's torn down. In 4 seasons, back-to-back second-place finishes to a complete unraveling and the beginning of a teardown. And now, this year, they're truly tearing it down with after Bane was traded in the summer of 2025. Here we are in the trade deadline 2026, and now they're trading Jaren Jackson Jr. I think the lesson here, and this is important, is that if you are good, go for it. Do not wait. Your window is always smaller than you think. It's always smaller than you think. The Grizzlies in the summer of 2022 were the envy of every team in the league, right? All this young talent, an MVP caliber player in Ja Morant, the defensive anchor in Jaren Jackson Jr. and Tripp, like Desmond Bane, the perfect third parts of this budding big three. They're an elite team on both sides of the floor, and even if their offense fell off a little bit, an elite defensive team with the kind of guy in Ja that can like win you games when it matters, right? But they just never got back there. All told, they won 9 playoff games with that core 3. The lesson, and this is for the Trailblazers. I think Deni Avdija is that good, right? I think he is he's probably not what Ja was in 2022 or whatever. Like, he's not going to finish in the top 5 in MVP voting, but he's not that far off, right? Like, Deni Avdija has been one of the 20 best players in the league easily this year. Easily. Probably better than that, but easily one of the 20 best players in the league. This isn't right now, the next 36 hours are not the time for the Blazers to massively hit the gas. But next season is not the time to be patient. You just don't. Your best chances to win with the group the roster they've got right now is probably next year, right? If Drew Holiday is going to be 36 years old, Damian Lillard is going to be 36 years old. Assuming that your window extends 4, 5, and 6 seasons is nonsense in the league. It's always small. If you think you have a 5-year window, cut it in half. If you think you have an 8-year window, cut it in half. It is whatever it is. The lesson from this Grizzlies team is that even if you are on top and the envy of everyone with this core under 25, they should have gone further. They should have been more aggressive. They never made the really aggressive swing to say, hey, before this Ja extension kicks in, and before the Bane extension kicks in, before we get expensive, let's go big. Let's make some really big aggressive moves because we feel like we can win the title. They never made those moves, and the Blazers aren't there yet, but they're going to be there. Maybe not, certainly not 56 wins good next year, but your window to try to actually hit the gas and be good, it comes quickly. And if you don't do it, it might just pass you by and then you're tearing it down. The other side of this is that the Grizzlies sold high. They said, whoops, it's time to bail. And they sold their good players before it got too late. I think the Grizzlies made the mistake that their original sin was really that summer of 2023. That's the summer of 2022. Just like they didn't do anything that summer heading into 56 wins, and they said, we're pretty good. We're going to be all right. We're going to add Tyus Jones and let Kyle Anderson walk. We're like minor moves. You always have to think bigger, and I think that's the lesson. And then when they realized that it just wasn't going to work and they'd kind of reached their peak of like, hey, we're a team that's going to make the playoffs but not compete when we get there. We're not going to win 2 playoff series, much less 3, much less 4. They bailed, and they bailed before it got those the players in their team sort of lost their value, and now they're set up for a pretty maybe a longer pivot, but like they have a lot of draft picks to do that pivot with. They have a lot of draft picks to make that, to either draft good players or to facilitate trades to add good players. They're a pretty good drafting team. So like, don't chase failure, bail early, and just like go for it. I feel like that is the real lesson I'm thinking about when I watch these Blazers, thinking about the Memphis Grizzlies. Do not rely on the sort of magic of internal growth and the youth of a roster to carry you. Always be making real aggressive moves to improve, because if you don't, they'll just leave you. They'll just leave you out there on the line. And you'll be blowing in the wind like the forgotten sock of yesteryear. That's a laundry analogy, and I'm going to end the show because who is air drying their clothes these days? My parents' neighbors in North Carolina. Shout out to those folks. That's going to do it for this program. Tomorrow, there's probably going to be more trades. So that's probably what we're going to talk about. We shall see. We're 36 hours from the trade deadline. It is here. It's upon us. Come back for more, because we're going to talk about all the fun stuff that happens across the league. It's a really fun time of year. So yeah, make it back to this one wherever you're already listening to it, and tell your friends about the podcast. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.